There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to All Hands on Tech Live Developer Stream. I'm Jeremy Morgan. I'm your host today. We're working on a application to read Metar reports. Been working on this for a little while now. Some of you have probably seen some of our past streams. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to do a quick introduction here to show you what we're working on today, because we are making some really great strides here. And I'm going to do a quick tech check here, make sure we're up and live everywhere we want to be up and live. And looks like we're going here in a few different places, so that's good. Perfect. And I apologize, just doing our quick tech check. Looks like we're all good. All right, and I've got the chat opened up here. Dukasoft says, how's the weather today? We're going to find out. And Surly Dev says, we've got some Metar strings for you. Awesome. Abo Aitya, can I ask a question? Yeah, go for it. I'm going to just do a quick intro on what we're doing here today. So we built an application here on this stream as we've gone through, and it's taking a little while to build right now for some reason. But this application, it started out as like an IP address identifier. So that was the very first stage of this project. Was we wanted to bring up an IP address. It's a little bit different in Blazor than it is in ASP.NET. We don't have server variables and things like that, because all of this C# is compiled into JavaScript and thrust down into the browser. Therefore, the server variables thing doesn't really work. However, oh wow, so Surly Dev has a really cool Metar that we're going to have to try out for sure. So anyways, we built this IP address thing that grabs your IP address. Then we run it against a database, a GeoIP database, to see what city you're located in, which is Hillsboro, Oregon. Then we take some of that location data and build a Google Maps for it. Then we built a Metar reader. So Metars are reports that are given every 55 minutes to pilots from airports. So they take these weather measurements at the airport, and they send out this Metar every 55 minutes that looks like this. It's just a long string of stuff. So I wanted to take that long string of stuff and break it down into human readable format for our Blazor application. Turned out to be quite a bit more intense than I thought it would be, which makes it fun. Like, there's all kinds of different fields, there's different readings, things like that. And so we've put that together. We've got it running pretty well now. We've got it so it breaks up the airport code that it comes from, the day of the month, time, wind direction, clouds, all of this stuff. We've got it broken down. And today what I want to do is put it into a class library and throw some unit tests at it. And the reason I want to do that is because we're actually going to release this class library out on GitHub for anybody to use. And ideally, it would be cool if, you know, you're building your Blazor application or even an ASP.NET application, and you can just take this library down, throw the DLL in there, and start reading off Metar reports. So that's what we're going to do today. But first, Surly Dev has sent us a cool Metar here from Punta Gorda Airport, Florida, just as Hurricane Ian was heading towards it. So we definitely want to see what that looks like on our Metar reader here. So I have it in here where I can hard code it. Hard code the Metar right here. So we'll just add this one here. Hurricane approaches. That's some random capitalization there. Okay. We'll say Hurricane Ian approaches. So Metar equals here. And let's run that and see what it looks like. Okay, located in Hillsboro, Oregon. So those of you who are coming here for the first time, that's what the original front page of the app is. And then we got sidetracked onto this Metar thing that's wild. So an unhandled exception has occurred. Let's find out what that is. Blazor server, web connection failed, system, index and length, etc. Get report type. And it looks like our very first one is line 200. We're breaking at get report type, which is right here, first three. So we will put a breakpoint here. We'll figure out why I can't read this. I'll make sure that I got it in here. KPGD. This looks like a great one. LTG doesn't see. So yeah, this should be hard coding it. Let's debug it really quick, just to kind of see why it's acting this way. And it's breaking before my breakpoint. Let's put the breakpoint up here. And F5 again. There we go. So now we've caught it at the breakpoint at get report type. Our Metar field is KPGD. Let's find out. Report type, string empty. First three ends up being KPG. So what did we mess up here? KPG, get report type. If it ends with KT, then it's wind. We know that it's not, it doesn't end with KT, SM. If the length is 4, that should be true. Yep, stepping right in. And we're making sure it's all letters. So this must be an airport ID. Return airport ID. So there we go. Report type, airport ID for this iteration of the loop. If there's no remarks present, which so far there's not, airport code, KPGD. Everything looks super here. What is this next one? If it ends with not, doesn't do square miles. But it does end with Z, so this one should say date time. Perfect. I'm just going to keep continuing here until we find where we're breaking. Field BR. This is where it appears to choke. It doesn't know what BR is. I don't know what BR is. So let's jump into a Metar reader and find out what BR means. Oops. BR Metar. The abbreviation for a condition of missed is BR. So it looks like we're going to have to add some functionality here. If it's BR, then it's missed. And it seems like kind of a separate field. So first I'm going to go to one of our trusty Metar readers that we know works. I believe we've used this one in the past. Yeah. And this one seems to ignore the missed part of it. Looks like. So let's try a different one. This one has a whole bunch of stuff, and this one says moderate mist. Light rain, moderate mist. Okay, so we're going to put in these two. And by the way, Surly Dev, thank you very much for throwing this in here, because this is exactly how I want to test this Metar reader, is by throwing in all these different exceptions that I haven't accounted for in the past. And we want to make this thing as robust as possible. So this unusual Metar, I would say, is unusual because of that hurricane coming in. Makes it a little more interesting. So for the BR, let's see. Get report type. In here, I think we could just look for a BR and return it. And we could return it as a type, a report type of mist, a report type of rain, etc. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Like right in the very beginning, here we'll say if Metar field, we could even say equals BR. So if the entire field is just BR, this is mist. And report type, we'll call it mist. Or we could just return mist, I guess. Return report type. And then we'll just check for it up here and say if it's missed, we will do a Boolean flag on that. Oh, one from Manchester, England. Yeah, the slashes. That might be something fun to clean up, trying to clean up those slashes. So if you're wondering who I'm talking to Surly Dev on the Twitch chat, which is a great reminder to follow us on Twitch. We'll always be streaming on Twitch. So what I do is a multi-stream where I stream it out to Twitch, and then we also stream it out to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, etc., Twitter. I think we're on Twitter today. And some of those don't work. Honestly, some of them just have technical problems, things like that. They don't work, but we always stream to Twitch. Twitch always works. And the Twitch chat is generally pretty exciting. So I know you can see it there right above my head, the chat there, but yeah, we're always on Twitch all the time. And I lost my train of thought. Oh, report type, get report type. So switch report type. In the switch, we're going to say case, what did I call it? Mist. And here we could just say, open up Metar CS. We'll throw a bool in here for mist. We'll throw one in for rain. public bool missed. And then back in here, we can just say our metar.mist is true. So this brings up another really good point of how easy it is to work with Blazor. This is one of the reasons I love Blazor. So what we've said is if a field exists that just says BR, then we know that means mist. So we do this quick check here and we say mist equals true, and then up here, way up here, I can just add another field, clouds visibility. We'll probably do it right here. And we can just say if our metar mist we can say, I didn't see what the official text, oh, moderate mist is all it says. So we can just put moderate mist. That's fine. Mist. And this should work. Maybe now it won't break like it broke before. Oh, it still does. Still does. Okay. That's all right. I've been looking for a reason to use these buttons a lot more in their streaming, you know. When we win, we can be like, when we don't win. So, yeah, I've been looking for a reason to use those. And it looks like we're at 208 here. Metar field, parameter length, location within the string, weather razor at 208. That's where our first break is. Let's go to 208. That's the first three. So maybe we don't have a first three. That is a great point because, yeah, we may not have a first three. Where do we use the first three at? Right here. So I'm going to take this, cut it, and up here. We're going to call this first three matching. So this is just a section of code where we try to match that first three to see if it's cloud or remarks. But what we're going to do is I'm throw an if here and say if metar field length is greater than 2. Because you can't get the first three if you don't have 3 in there. And then this should capture our first 3. This should help us avoid that error that we just ran into. Hopefully. Maybe. Probably. And it did fix it. Perfect. So I went a little fast there. I should probably explain exactly what I did because I went pretty fast there. So there was a point in which we were reading a field that's less than 3 characters, and it was trying to say, what are the first 3 characters? And there wasn't 3 characters in that field. So what I did was say, if the field is greater than 2, which means we have at least 3, then let's look at that first 3 and let's see if it's a cloud or not. It's just kind of a quick fix. Maybe not the best fix, but pretty quick. So now we can read the metar here. And this one is not the same metar, however. So I'm going to have to figure out what I did wrong. I thought I could hard code it in here. So let's see. Let's see where I messed that up here. Decode Metar, Metar text. And then Metar text comes in here. And yeah, this should override it. Let's find out what's going on there. Let's find out why it doesn't do that. Okay, string Metar is KMDW. That was the last one that we put in. That was the airport code we put in. So this is a live, real Metar. Then here, skip back and let's go see what that is. Now it should be KPGD. We'll split it up. Metar data, KPGD. Interesting. And we'll continue. It still says KMDW up here. However, we can see that this is not the KMDW, because this one has a wind of 4 knots, and down here we can see 107 knots. Overcast, wind direction 100 degrees, wind speed 67. Yeah, 67 knots with gusts of 107. So I think I'm not updating this Metar string. So finding errors all over the place here, right? Metar text. We need to set that Metar text string down here before we start. We should just set this anyway. So we'll say Metar text equals whatever Metar is. That way, and I'll slow down a little bit and explain what I'm doing here. So I'm passing a string in of Metar here, but then I'm overriding it so that we could look at this Punta Gorda at the specific time rather than a real-time thing. So I'm overriding it, and then right here I'm just storing it for display. Display in case I override it. Now let's see what that Metar does. There we go, KPGD. Let's look at it. So this was on the 28th, 2010 Zulu time. We had a wind speed of 67 knots, which is wild, at 100 degrees. So that's wind direction from north. And clouds, it was overcast at 1100 and gusts of 107 knots, which is incredible. Then we have a moderate mist that we put in there. I should put some kind of title on there, like conditions or something. Visibility 1S statute miles, which I'm not sure. Oh, I know why. We have been assuming when we did the statute miles of visibility, we've been assuming that it was always 2 digits, and it's not. So when I crop that 2 digits, it says 1S because I was taking 1 SM and just cropping those first 2 digits. So we found another bug, found another thing. We haven't even started unit testing yet, and we've already found another bug. That's fantastic. So let's go to, oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of them here, huh? This is a pretty easy fix though. We're going to look for SM for square miles. And we are doing that somewhere in here. I'm sure of it. That's store cloud report. We need to go up here. There it is. If Metar field ends with SM. Watching a storm chaser. Yeah, 1 mile visibility is not much at all. It was probably actually less than 1 mile, but that's all they could put in there was 1. But yeah, that's pretty wild. So we know that if it ends with SM, the report type is visibility. Let's go up to where we handle visibility reports and change it a little bit. Here it is. And see, we do a substring of 02. So one thing we can do is we'll just do another character count. If this length my typing is so off today. Oh, do you have the link to the page you're reviewing the decoded Metar on? Yes, I do. This is probably the best one that I've seen so far. So case visibility, substring 02, which removes the SM. Or we can just remove, as Surly Dev is recommending, just remove SM is probably easier than doing a character count. I think this will work. Oh, can't. That's right, we got to remove from the end of it. So instead of the substring 2, remove length. The length of it minus 2 should remove those last 2 characters. Yeah, I could do actually a replace on it too and just replace it with blank. Visibility, 1 statute miles. Which doesn't make a ton of sense. Should be 1 statute mile, but we could probably do something with that. Also. So everything else looks good. The temperature, 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Dew point is also at 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which explains the mist. We do not have atmospheric pressure, which, let's see, 24, peak wind, it's all part of remarks from then on out. I don't see an atmospheric pressure in this one. Here we're going to use our super easy, awesome Blazor razor syntax. So for our visibility, or is it visibility right here? Let's just throw an if in here. If our meteor visibility is 1, should work, right? Oh, that's right, it's a string, not an int. It's not really an int, just looks like an int. So if visibility equals 1, one statute mile, else one-quarter statute mile is a potential value for visibility. Interesting. Let's try putting it in and see what it does. See how it breaks our application. Actually, I think I may have already broken my application. Yes. Visibility get, return null. That's interesting. Okay, I've got a question here. Do you have to write code to develop? No, there's no code solutions out there, and they're great. But I do think a background in development would probably help if you're writing no-code application. Interesting mean recursive with side effects. Yeah, all kinds of side effects going on here. That's pretty much what we're doing right now is just throwing stuff at this to try to break it. And it's breaking quite successfully. So cloud cover, if our Metar visibility equals 1. And it's not null. Maybe we'll try that. If it's not null and it equals 1. What's breaking right now is I've been messing with this visibility. I think it's mostly a timing issue. When the Razor first starts processing it, it's not quite ready as one possibility. But basically, I'm trying to make it say 1 statute mile. Unless it's not 1 statute mile, then we'll have miles. So we'll change this to a 2, and it should say 2 statute miles. Yep, so we have 2 statute miles, but in the actual Metar is only 1. So we just want the text to make sense more than anything. So weather. 1 statute mile. All right, and I'm going to check something really quick. I just got a message. Here. Okay, yep, that check is working. That one is working. All right, perfect. So now we're doing great. We're having a blast, right? So 1 statute mile works. Now Surly Dev brought up that it can be 1/4. I know this is going to break it somehow. I have very little faith that this is going to go through just fine. And I was absolutely wrong. It does appear to go through just fine if you put 1/4 statute miles and it says 1/4 statute miles, which it should also be mile. And we've got a question in the chat. If you had the choice, would you write browser code with manual memory management? Depends on the application. I have been looking into WebAssembly a lot, and I think WebAssembly is awesome, and that's actually what we're generating here. We're just taking C#, turning it into WebAssembly, but with Blazor, you don't necessarily have to know WebAssembly that well, because that's kind of the output. It's the artifact of the application, but WebAssembly is super, super fast and cool. So I am trying to learn a little bit of WebAssembly, and I think that would be something for like a game or something really performance intensive, but it all runs in the browser like native code, and there's some manual memory management there. But it would probably be worth it if you're building something high performance. What is it going to break when you decode the next field? VCTS, which means nearby thunderstorm. I'm going to have to check for that, because you're right. It's 4 characters, and it's going to confuse the code. That is correct. It's going to confuse it with an airport code. So if the length is 4, it's likely an airport ID. I think this is where I'm going to have to put in those four character fields that we know about. Which unfortunately has to be manual right now. But I might find a way to use an enum or something, some way to look, some kind of lookup table. If metar field VCTS, we know that's not an airport. And there's another way we could do this. We could say if it doesn't start with K, then it's not an airport. However, that would only work in the United States because all of the airports in the United States, almost all of them start with a K. But we don't necessarily want to limit this to just airports in the United States. And one of the messages in chat, I don't know how GC works. It's a black box. Same here, honestly. I've been writing C# for over 10 years. And the garbage collector is kind of a black box. I mean, there's things that I've learned about it over the years. One of the biggest things I've learned is to not try to outsmart the garbage collector. It's never worked out well for me. Other programmers might tell you differently. They might say, you know, the garbage collector sucks and I did this and this and this to fix it, but every time I've tried to outsmart the garbage collector, it hasn't worked out that great for me. So I generally let the garbage collector do its job. So if it equals, I totally messed that up. VTCS, and I know there's going to be some other ones in here. All letters and no match. Oops. I'm just tearing this thing all apart, aren't I? If it's all letters and no match, probably airport code. Yeah, that's actually what I'm going to do today, Surly Dev, is we are going to write some unit tests. I'm going to put this into a class library and start testing things out. Let's see. Check my messages. So after this, let's take this and drop it into a class library and throw some tests at it. There are a few things that I want to do. I want to switch the order of the fields around. I want to throw in some fields like this and just kind of make a solid set of tests. So if it equals VCTS, thunderstorm, and I think I'll probably drop this in kind of like a drop in the mist, just kind of put it in there. We'll say report type thunderstorm. And I will just check for it. All the way up here, switch report type. This is where we're just switching on all of them. Thunderstorm. And we could say thunderstorm actually could be a Boolean. Why not? We'll keep the capitalization. Try to keep it as consistent as I can. And we'll say public bool, public boo, thunderstorm get set. And I believe it's thunderstorm approaching, right? So that's what we'll use in here for I'm going to put in something here where it says strong and just put in condition. So this is a condition that has popped up, that we have moderate mist. And it's going to be the same thing here. If our Metar thunderstorm, then we're going to have a condition of thunderstorms. Approaching. Now let's take another look at it here. And this one, I scheduled an hour for a stream here today, but I already know we're going to go way over it, and that's fine. That is perfectly fine. So here we have condition, moderate mist, condition, thunderstorm approaching. And I can see remarks in here. We haven't really done a lot of parsing of remarks because remarks are pretty free form that people can just type into the Metar reports. So that will probably save for another day. For now, we're just going to put in Metar, or put in our remarks in a string like AO2, peak wind, etc. So this all looks pretty sweet. Now I would like to put this into a class library. I'm going to go save all. And we're going to build a class library for this. So ideally, we build this and we run some tests against it. If all our tests pass, everything's good, then we can use this class library and just drop it into our Blazor app, throw Metars into it, get information out, and also you could put it into other applications, not just Blazor applications, but you could do a desktop application or something silly like that. So we're going to add a new project. This one is going to be a class library. We've already got it there. And this class library needs to go into, instead of repos, we need to put this into what's my IP. And we're going to call this class library Metar Reader, Metar Parser. Metar Parser, I think, would. We'll go with Metar Reader. We're going to do .NET 6, long-term support. Awesome. And I'm going to take this, rename this to Metar Reader. Or we'll name this Metar Parser. That's right. So that'll make a little more sense. So this provides the parsing function for our Metars. Now in what's my IP, I have metar.cs. So we're just going to copy this entire thing, and this is our object. This is what basically what we return to the Razor page. We return this Metar, and we call it our Metar. And we're going to just put that in the same one. So we'll go to, Metar Reader. We're going to create a new item here. So we're just going to name it Metar class. It's going to be public, not internal. And we'll just dump all of our fields in there. Which there's going to be some shuffling around of this code before it actually works. But for now, here's our Metar class. Our Metar Parser is going to be essentially this decode metar method, get report type, and store, all of these are going to have to go into our class. So we're just going to copy all of these into our Metar Parser. Let the red squigglies begin. Okay, and the first thing is that I notice is we don't have regex. Oops, using, what was the regex? Oh, yeah, that's right. System.text.regular expressions. I always forget. Therefore, we can use the regex. Let's see what else. Metar text. That is going to have to be a public string in this class. I'm going to say public string, metar text. Non-nullable, blah, blah, blah. Speaking of constructor, let's create one of those. Because we have a metar, we have an our metar in here somewhere. Yeah, so we need to make that exist in this context. Same with like remarks present. Needs to exist here. That one can be private, I believe. Oh, no, we'll make that public because we are using that in our Razor application. So marks present. We're going to say public metar, our metar here. And what we'll do is in the constructor, we'll create a new metar. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Our metar equals new metar. There's going to be some of these day of the month. We need to do day of the month, Zulu time, etc. Let's just go to the top of our class here. That's what I should have did in the first place. Let's just take it out of our Razor component and put it into our new class library. We already have a remarks present. Okay, now there's going to be some changes, but so far, I think we've got rid of most of our squiggly lines here. And we need some unit tests. Now, I should have followed test-driven development and built the tests first, but I didn't. But yeah, we're far past the time where we should have written unit tests, so that's what we're going to do. That's what we got. Metar reader. Need to add a new project. Unit tests. These are for .NET Framework, which we do not want. We want this one, a project that contains MS Test unit tests that can be run on .NET Core, Windows, Mac, etc. Once again, repos. What's my IP? We'll select that folder, and we're going to call this metar reader.test. We're going to use .NET 6 and create it. All right. We're going to add a project reference to metar reader. All right, so our first test here assert are equal true and true. Our first passing unit test. And we have a build error. Because I haven't even tried to build. Actually, I haven't tried to build this one yet. So let's try it. Non-value or end of file expected. Try that again. There we go. Build succeeded. Now we can probably run the test. Run tests. Yay! We've got our first passing test. Pro tip, if you make all of your tests assert true equals true, you can have as many successful tests in any project that you want with that little statement right there. Anyway, little programmer humor. Instead, what I want to do is, so we got that project reference. Let's create a Metar. I'm just going to say test Metar equals new Metar. And our very first test here, let's look at our Metar Parser. And actually, let's create a Metar Parser instead of a Metar. We'll call it test parser. I now have 5 passing tests on my app. Yes, test-driven development is easy. It's fun. Well, new Metar Parser. And we need to pass in. Let's make sure I can pass in. We'll put the unit test over here in the first one. Okay, whatever. All right, for our Metar Parser, this is a private method. We're going to make it public so that we can decode a Metar with a string of Metar. Let's take the very first one. Copy it. We're going to remove the hard-coded one that we had, and we're just going to run this test. So test parser, decode Metar, and we're going to say example Metar equals this. This is our example Metar, one from Hillsborough Airport. Let's throw it in there. All right. Test parser, decode Metar. Let's just see if we can do that before we actually even have a test. Test failed, probably because there is no real test method. Test parser, Metar, test, example Metar. And one of the things I think we should do is we'll do an assert r equal let's see, example Metar and test parser Metar text. So that text should be equal because of what we did earlier, where we took the Metar text that comes in and stored that as our Metar text. going out here. So let's see if that test works. It doesn't like it. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. In store cloud report. So let's step through it. Let's debug it. We'll start. Obviously right here is probably the best place to start. Go to debug tests, and we have our example metar. Let's step into it. This is where it breaks right here. Cloud cover get returned null. I know exactly. So here I'm trying to add cloud cover data. Cloud cover data is a string. I'm trying to add that to a list. However, that list doesn't exist yet. And I'm really surprised that I haven't run into this bug before. Because, yeah, this is null. Because I haven't created that list yet. Yeah, I'm really surprised I haven't run into this before. So if our metar dot cloud cover is null, then our metar cloud cover is a new list. Oh, and it auto-completed to put cloud cover data right in there. So basically this is saying is if this list doesn't exist yet, then create a new one and add the cloud cover data. If it exists, just add the cloud cover data. Like I said, I'm really surprised this didn't come up in our application, because that is pretty obvious. Now we run the tests. We got a good test. Let's name these a little bit better so that they're a little more clear. So this test method will be test metar text storage. So we're just testing to make sure that the metar text is stored. And what I'll probably do is throw these as constants. This example metar, I'll throw it in as a constant, so we can just use them over and over. We run this, test metar text storage is good. Perfect. So let's go jump back into Metar Parser, where we had all those hard-coded metars, and we're just going to store these. We're not going to do the international ones just yet. I have some to-dos here. Grab all remarks using length. We did that. We factored in precipitation, and we factored in multiple cloud reports. Doesn't it feel good to delete code, even if it's comments, even if it's to-dos? It feels good, right? So in this test, we're just going to have a ton of metars here. This is with gusts. So we're going to do just a list of metars. Why not? Call this metar 0, metar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are all strings. So I need to specify that. And these will be our test cases. Perfect. Please clap. Okay. So test Metar text storage. We can, instead of example Metar, we'll say Metar 0. Whoops. And we'll put Metar 0 down here. And we'll run it. There were build errors. No. Oh, I should have put, yeah, I should have put a few semicolons in here. Make sure it can build, right? Sometimes it's helpful to just build it really quick and then run it, so you avoid stuff like that. But run test Metar storage. All right, in 31 milliseconds, we got passing tests. So what we're going to do is just test this 7 times. Probably the easiest way to do that would be a loop, but we're just going to do it this way. We'll have it run and decode all of these metars just to see if we get any kind of exception. So we'll say metar 1. Metar 1, 2. And Ahmed says, hello, Mr. Morgan, what's that? What we're doing is building a class library here to decode metars. And metars are reports that are sent out from airports. They're weather reports that are sent out to pilots to airports. And so we've been working on this for a few weeks now, getting things together, you know, kind of an hour or 2 at a time, putting this together, this metar reader. And so what I'm doing right now is putting it into a class library and building unit tests for it, which I probably should have done 3 or 4 streams ago. But we're building a set of unit tests for it so we can kind of solidify it. Then we're going to stuff it into our application and forget about it for a little while, probably. Or we'll keep working on it till it's absolutely perfect and then release it to the world open source so that other people can use it however they like. And the purpose of this is we're just taking this string and breaking it up and extracting the data from it and making sure we don't have a metar 8. Okay, now we're running this 7 times here and asserting that it's equal for each of them. Let's see how it works. It's going to be a little longer this time. Oh, not really. And I'm working on Windows 11 for this. I just recently made the switch to Windows 11, and I used to tell people all the time with Microsoft versions that every other version is trash. And that started with like Windows 95 being trash, Windows 98 being great, then Windows ME being trash, etc. But so far, I didn't like Windows 8. I loved Windows 10. I still love Windows 10. And now I upgraded to Windows 11. And I expected it to be trash and go back to Windows 10. But so far, Windows 11 has been really good. So it's what I've been running. So maybe the streak is over of every other Windows release being terrible. So we've got all these. What's something that we could check next? So we've got test metar text storage. This test is great. Could do another test method. Say public void test airport code. Seems like a good one, all right? Test airport code. And here we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a new Metar parser. Probably decode a Metar. All relatively the same. Metar 0 is this one. We think it should be KHIO. So we can say assert are equal test parser dot airport code. Is it public? It is not. So it looks like we need to make a lot of things public, or we just need to go to that. That's right. We'll just go to the Metar, to our Metar. There we go. There's our airport code. And this should be KHIO. Let's run the tests. Yes, test Metar text storage. Let's debug it just so we can watch it in action. Sometimes I do this as just kind of a sanity check, right? So we're going to go decode Metar. I can see with my eyes that KHIO is the code. And I can see here the airport code is KHIO. So that's why that one's passing. And we'll do that for all of these. So if we look here, I'm just going to copy and paste a bunch of these here. Just so I know what order to look for them in. Oh, KPDX, KLAX. KMDW. Tell the bots, send me an angel. Alrighty. Now we do another 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 7 of them here. KHIO is the second one. KPDX is the next one. Then KLAX. KJFK. KORD. And then KMDW. And did I have more than? Oh yeah, KPGD. So I just took the order that I could visually see, like as a visual spot check to see what each airport code was for each of these. So now we just have to do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we won't do the repeat through all of them every time, probably, but we'll see. So we'll run it, run tests. Oh, we've got some red. We've got some red. Where's the red? Assert are equal KHIO, and that's line 54. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's just step through it. See where I got it wrong. I'm actually one of those silly people who loves unit tests. I mean, when I first started developing way back in, who knows when, I don't even remember the first time I used unit tests, but it was a long time ago. And at first I was like, this is such a pain, and this is so boring, and this is so tedious. And then after a while, I started to really enjoy it. And at one company where I was a software engineer, I refactored over 1,500 unit tests for an application. It was interesting. I actually had fun doing it. Not gonna lie. It was actually kind of fun. KHIO, KHIO. This METAR is KPDX. KPDX. Expected H. Why would you expect that? Equal airport code. Ended up being KHIO from number 2. METAR 2. So we found a strange bug. Yes, I refactored almost 1,600 unit tests from MS test to in-unit over months. Months of time. It was fun. I wrote an article about it on my blog because I knew I would forget most of the stuff I did. So the issue I'm having here, it's failing here because METAR 2, which is here, should be KPDX. For some reason, it's still kicking KHIO. Let me jump back in there again. Debug tests. And I can visually look at it here as I step through here and say, airport code, KHIO, KHIO, this should pass. KHIO, KHIO should pass. METAR 2, KPDX, as it comes in. The airport code as it comes out is KHIO. Oh, when I did the unit tests, I was a senior dev by that time. I think as a junior dev, I probably would have quit and went somewhere else. I'm being honest, but I was a senior dev by then, so I'm like, oh, this is easy. It's fun. I'll just put on some headphones and jam out and refactor unit tests day after day. So somehow this airport code is not being updated. So I'm going to have to go back here, and we're going to have to step into that and find out what's going on. So we're going to debug 10F10. Which one we know? This one we know is going to break. Let's step into it. METAR says KPDX. Split. The length is 15. So we start looping around in here. Get report type. So this should be the very first one, which our METAR data says KPDX is 0. It's not a remark. So we're not going to deal with remarks present. Oh, why are we storing remarks here? That's kind of interesting. There's no remarks present. What did we have for a report type? Airport ID. So it's not storing the airport ID. That's a little confusing. Start over again. Debug tests. Say, go down to our problem child here. Step into it. KPDX. We're splitting it up. We now have a length of 15, so it's definitely going to loop through. We're going to get our report type. Let's step into that. And this is for METAR data. Should be METAR data 0, right? Because I is 0. So METAR data 0. That should be KPDX. Let's step into that. And say string empty. If its length is more than 2, it is. Oh, interesting. So it's storing it as a cloud report for some reason, I betcha. Because first 3 is KPD. Yep. It's saying that's a cloud report. So if the length is greater than 2, we're checking for that first 3. Now I'm going to have to check and say, is it 4? Which I think we were doing down here. We did, yeah, if it's 4. But this is definitely not a cloud report. But I am falsely calling it a cloud report in this code. So if it's greater than 2, I think I'm going to have to switch some stuff around. Why do I keep doing that? Let's see. If the length is equal to 4, it's likely an airport ID. This probably needs to go closer to the top. 7, it might be time. Let's see. Or we'll put first 3. If it's more than 2, first 3 or 4 must be cloud or remarks. I could say and not 4, because if it's 4, it's not going to be a cloud report. But I do think this needs a little bit more than this. But for now, we can say if it's exactly 4, then it's not a cloud report. It's probably an airport report, unless it's that other thing. Okay. All right. We're rolling again. This isn't too bad. Now I feel a little more confident. Let's just run it. It still does it. So our airport code, not sure why it fails on that exact one, but we're going to figure it out. That's what we're going to do. Debug. Actually, let's put the breakpoint right before we fail. And debug tests. All right, Metar 2, KPDX. We're going to step into that, decode Metar. We're going to say KPDX here, KPDX here. And we're going to get the report type for that first field. I is 0. So we're going to step in here. And it's going to say if the length is greater than 2 and it's not 4, then it skips it. So yeah, the length is greater than 2, not 4. Now we're going to check, is it equal BR? No. Then with KT, no. And with SM, no. Now, if it's 4, yes, it's 4, right? Now let's see, it should say, okay, yeah, now it's going to step in because it is 4 characters. And is it VCTS? No. So then we go here. If it's all letters and no match, it's probably an airport code. There we go. So it should be returning a report type of airport ID. Let's check our Metar here. Yep, airport ID. Our Metar airport code still says KHIO. Still says that. That is interesting. Because I think these might be readings from previous one, so maybe I gotta null it. Shouldn't have to null it, but I'm going to try it for test purposes. Metar 1. Test parser. Our metar null. Oh, yeah, we got to do that after the assert. Convert null literal to non-nullable reference type. Can I do a string empty? Something to, or just say new metar. That seems like that would screw it up a lot, but just for testing purposes. Nope. I don't think so. So, we have ourselves a tricky little bug here. And this is why it's very important that we, let's see, metar 1, metar 2, 3, 4. I think this could have something to do with it also. Oh, nope. Metar 2. Okay, so 0 and 1 should be KHIO. 2, our problem child, should be KPDX. However, it's keeping the KHIO. Now, one thing I can do is just put a bunch of X's in here and see if this starts. We'll see if it starts doing it with metar 0, basically. Let's run it. Debug tests. Correct. Oh, yes. Joker duplis. What happens if you run metar 2 first? It might be remembering which was first. That's exactly what I was thinking also. I think you're right. Because now I change this to KXXX and it's remembering KHIO. So we might have to figure out why it's remembering that when it's being tested. Yeah, I can take these off here to test that. Oops. We'll move 0 and 1. Start with number 2, and then I bet you it fails at number 3. Yep. KPDX, KLX. So, I think I need to see about the initialization of it. And oh yeah, Joker duplex. Does the method ever reinitialize that prop? No, I don't think it does. So that would be helpful. So here, metar is getting set. Every time it's created, it creates a new metar in the constructor. However, that's where I think we're running into a problem, is I don't think it's actually reinitializing that object. Let's do a debug test really quick and see if it even calls it. Oh, it does. Our metar null. Test new Metar Parser. So it's this one. And unhandled. So I'm going to simplify this a little bit. And we're only going to do 2 of these. The rest of these we're going to comment out for now. And we're going to find out why we can't add another one. So this one should fail, even with just these 2, because we're changing from KHIO to KHXX. There we go. It's failing because it's not truly reinitializing. And we could try destructor, but I just said something about an hour ago about not or trying to trick the garbage collector. So right now I'm trying to trick the garbage collector. Show potential fixes, declare as nullable. We'll make Metar nullable. And then on the destructor, we're nulling it and see if that works. Probably not. Nope. So we'll get rid of that hackiness here. Metar is nullable. So we know this is being called, right? Let's see if it's being called twice. So here's what's being called once. Let's look at this. Day of the month, all this stuff is blank. Our Metar is null. Okay. F10. Test parser. Now we have a test parser here. All this stuff is null. After decoding it, we see KHIO. We see this thing is our Metar is populated with Metar from KHIO. And we step next. Now we have KXXX. Now before we assert equal, let's see, KXXX. In our test parser, our Metar is the same Metar as before. It's the old one. Go to F10. It says wrong. So we do need to figure out how to reinitialize it so that it will get rid of all that old data. String Metar text. Maybe we should just null it here before we start. But it seems a little bit hacky. Shouldn't have to do this. And when we run it, it doesn't make any difference. Joker duplicate. With the constructor run every time you call decode meter. That's it's correct. You're right. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm screwing up here. Thank you. Yeah, I just initialize it here this one time, and then decode string are equal. Then I throw another one in, and yeah, it does not reinitialize it. So I want to be able to decode multiple metars without having to create a new Metar Parser object, if that makes sense. So we'll have to do a little refactoring here. Because when I call decode metar, that's probably when the metar should be created, because I don't want to have to create a new object every single time. That doesn't make a ton of sense. So this Metar Parser constructor, not really doing anything for now. Right, yeah. Metar Parser, not really doing anything for now. Expected null, actual. That's interesting. Expected null. Metar equals new metar. Why would it expect null on line 61? We are not expecting null, we're expecting this. Let's just build it again. So we're creating a new Metar Parser. And then we're creating that. And now my assert is wrong. Line 54. Which is way up here. Let's just try one single solitary test. And we'll make that one work. One test works great. Cool. And when we do a second test, let's see if it just if it breaks before we even get to it. Okay, it doesn't. So now we're going to do another one. Assert or equal. Airport code should be KXXX. Code is not null here. And then this one breaks because it says expected null. We are not looking for null. This is fun. See, debug tests. Okay, so we have here KHIO. F10, since we know this works, we don't really got to jump into it much. I'm going to say this airport code needs to be KHIO. That one's good. And if we look at our text parser here, we have our metar, we have KHIO. This one, instead of F10, I think I'm going to step into it. Let's see, our metar at this time is the KHIO. That's an issue. So next metar is KXX. So I do think in the constructor we still need to, like, it's keeping that. Just try this really quick. So what I'm doing here is just nulling it out and then creating a new one, but that doesn't feel right at all. And it's still not right. Line 62. Interface set a constructor. Yeah, my intention is to refresh all of the properties of the Metar object that we will be returning. So that's leads me to think that maybe our constructor here needs to do something when we create a new Metar object. I don't know why that one's highlighted. But it should create a new object. Shouldn't have to null it. I'm running out of time. And this one's even stranger. Because it says it expects null, but the actual is KXX. So I think I have my... No. I do have them mixed up. That's good to know. It's not going to change anything. But I have my asserts mixed up here to where I should be telling it what I expect before and then what the actual is. But that's not going to fix our problem. Assert or equal. Our Metar may be null here. Yeah, it might be. That's a good idea. Throw an actual in there. Run tests. We expected KXX. The actual is null. Perfect. So yeah, my intention is to refresh all of the properties in our Metar object when I call this method. So I called the decode Metar. Our Metar equals new Metar. Should be a blank, fresh new Metar. Check on this one again here. Run tests. Oops. Debug tests is what I'm looking for. Okay. Step over that one. Our Metar, new Metar. So let's go back up here to our Metar. Okay, everything's null. Cool. Go through all this. Assert should be KHIO. It is KHIO. Now we're going to go into this one, step into it, and say our Metar, which at this point is the old one. There it is. It's all nulled. Except the Metar text is not. So now it should be equal. Okay, now it's all zoomed out. Let's see. Metar text, our Metar. Our Metar is completely null at this point. And then we start kind of going into everything. So now, F10, let's see what it looks like. Metar KXXX, test parser, our Metar. Oh, it's still completely null. What did I do this time? Reader. There's our remarks. It just dumps everything into remarks. So it is possible that creating this new Metar Parser was a bad idea. Or where is it going in here? In our Metar Parser, we say our Metar equals new Metar. That's problematic. We're going to have to put that back into a constructor. Because we're only going to do it. And any suggestions anybody might have, what I'm doing wrong, but I think I need to clear all the fields. See if there's a cool way to do this that I don't know about. I mean, I could do a new Metar with the Metar string. Like, let's see. Our new. And in here, we don't really have a Metar string, do we? No, we don't really. And I'm seeing if I'm missing something here. For the last 15 minutes, I gotta get this done. So I know you can empty a list. Like, by clearing it, but I don't think you can clear just any old object. Okay, list doesn't need to be nullable. Yeah, I didn't think you could just clear it like you could a list. So let's see, get hash code, toString, get type equals, nope. Let's see if I can. All members. Everything null. It seems like setting our Metar to null would do that when we made it nullable. It's like just setting it to null should have fixed that. And I know I could just recreate and I can create a new object and run it against each of those, but I want the same object to run multiple metars. So right now I'm looking up a few ways to reset here. I see a lot of people saying to set it to null, but that doesn't really help. This one will be kind of interesting. So in our Metar Parser, we're declaring it. And then in this one, we need to empty it out and create a new one. All right, so we have our Metar. I think we've already tried this. Do you have it on GitHub? No, I do not. I'm going to put it on GitHub this week, though, for sure, so other people can jump into it. We will put this on GitHub. Are you able to access our Metar from Decode Metar? Yeah, I can. And one of the issues that I'm having is I declare it null, it stays null forever. No, now it doesn't want to run at all. So this looks like a type of error. Yep. Tests. And yeah, like I said, time is kind of counting down because I have a meeting that I need to be in. So actual null. Okay, this time I didn't set it to null, and it still became null. So let's step through this again. Let's just jump in right from the beginning. We're gonna debug tests. And we're just going to look at this little object here. Test parser our Metar, KHIO. And we just need to really watch this, our Metar. As we step in, and we can see here our Metar still KHIO F10. Now it's all null, which is what we want, right? Now Metar text needs to be updated, so that goes here. And Metar data. This our Metar. Everything is null. I'm going to split it. Do stuff. Let's see, first store remarks. I think we're storing remarks every time, which I think is a bug. Report type is airport ID. Remarks aren't present. If they are present, store remarks. So I noticed that we're appending remarks right here. But we're not appending. Okay, not appending an airport code. So I just stored the Zulu time in this in stored remarks. I see. I've got a weird logic problem here. So if remarks are not present, go through here. We have remarks. If remarks are not present, we'll do all these things, but after remarks, we're going to store remarks. So as I look at this string that we're looking at, this first one, okay, these are the only things that should be stored in remarks. Actually, we'll go up here. So the only thing that should be stored in remarks are AO2, SLP, etc. And we're storing a lot more than that. So looks like we've got some logic problems, which is fine. It's great. What I'm going to do is I am going to have to wrap up this stream. I'm going to think about this a little bit, and we will come back to it next week. Actually, possibly this week. So I'm thinking about doing a second stream this week. I'm also thinking of taking one of my coworkers on here and doing a stream with us, with me. I think that would be really fun. And yeah, we're going to see if we can get this figured out. So, to sum up everything we did in this stream today, we added some functionality. We fixed like 2 or 3 bugs there at the beginning, and then we moved everything into a class library. So now we're into a class library, and we've built some unit tests on it, and we're going to hammer on this class library until we can get this Metar reader function really good. Once it's really good, we'll be able to just drop it into any old Blazor app or any old .NET app. And yes, I will upload it into GitHub. Take a look for it here. Gotta make sure I got the right URL here. There we go. I'm going to add the repo to github.com/JermanMorgan. Naming conventions. Why is decode metar method first word caps? Oh, because it's a public method, and I'm not even sure. Yeah, I've got a bunch of public methods here, so making them capitalized. There's a few different styles and a few different ways you can do that. It doesn't really matter too much. It just kind of matters who else you're programming with. But I get them mixed up all the time. Actually, I'll lowercase things that shouldn't be with fields and stuff like that. But I try to stick to, like, these are public fields, so I try to make them capitalized. And private ones, I'll underscore, camel case them, stuff like that. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the stream. And just as a reminder, follow us on Twitch. Twitch is where all of our streams go to. We're going to be doing some events where we're going to stream some live in-person type interview things again onto our Twitch channel, and everything goes on to our Twitch channel stuff. But yeah, I've got to wrap this up because I've got a meeting to go to. I've got to figure out what these problems are. I'll put this up on GitHub today. People can kind of pull into it, and we'll see. Who knows? Maybe by the next time I go on the stream, I might have a pull request from somebody, and we'll just do it that way. But I'm also going to try to figure out what I'm doing wrong here. And I think it's something small that I'm just not picking up on. But I'm going to keep playing with it. Thank you all for watching. Thank you everybody who's participated in the chat. And even if you didn't participate in the chat, but you watched and you learned something, hopefully. That's the whole point of this, is that we all learn something. I just want to say thank you for jumping onto the stream. Follow us at twitch.tv/pluralsight_live. And we're going to be doing this again next week, but I may do a surprise stream sometime this week if I can. If I have a little time, I'd like to jump on and do another one, but for sure I'll be back next week. Thank you all, and we will see you soon.